Hello everybody, Sanyu from Galaxy Invest. So today I wanted to go over some of the patents between the top companies in the gene editing space. So that's between CRISPR Therapeutics, NTLA, Editas. We'll take some time to review ARX Invest paper that was published around 2018. So that was a while ago, but I think that paper is still valid, and I wanted to perhaps go over it and hopefully help us all understand a little bit more about where we stand with the patent situation, because the whole Twitter post that I referenced a few days ago from Dr. Liu about Beam Therapeutics sort of got me wondering what are these patents, and what does it actually mean in this industry. So before we even head into that, I came across this YouTuber, and he basically posted a quite interesting video where he talks about the total time that it usually takes for a product to go public. So basically, for a product that's pre-release, still in research, all the way till it gets to mass market. And it does apply to what we're looking into for gene editing, because like we mentioned in the past, CTX001 is still in clinical trial. You have other products as well from other companies, NTLA and Editas, in clinical trial. So the question becomes, how long will they be going through this clinical trial? And it doesn't look like you have a specific set of guidelines, like a specific time frame, but you can compute some averages, and that's what we're seeing here. So the median value. And you see here, what's interesting is that it usually takes, we're looking at a couple of years to go from preclinical all the way till mass market, which is very, very interesting, right? And the next question becomes, are we really looking into another few years for CRISPR Therapeutics, for NTLA, and so on to go mass market? Because the CEO of CRISPR Therapeutics already mentioned that they're preparing to go commercial by 2022. So what does this mean, right? And I actually asked this question to one of our friends here, CRISPR Talk. I mentioned his YouTube account previously in our videos, so I really highly recommend any of you guys to watch his YouTube videos. He really goes specific in this space, but I asked him basically, hey, what about the latest clinical trials by March 2022? And I said, if assume all results are maintained and well good, how long are we looking into to go mass market? And he actually mentioned, hey, I personally do not pay attention to the trial completion date. CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex both have said that they are in talks with FDA to determine what is needed, right? So very, very interesting, right? So although, the median value in this industry with other unrelated type of drugs that's not in the CRISPR therapeutics realm, right? Not in the Cas9 gene editing, it's totally different, right? You have, these median values, they come from like Pfizer drugs, Moderna drugs, and so on. So completely unrelated, although the FDA approval is sort of the commonality here. And it looks like CRISPR Therapeutics and Vertex are both in talks to reduce that time, right? To get the minimum, like the MVP, right? The minimum viable product. Like, what's the minimum amount of time to get it to mass market? And I think this is extremely useful to know. And it's definitely something you want to keep in mind. I do believe one of our previous videos, we mentioned that one of the PowerPoint slides updates from CRISPR Therapeutics, they were definitely talking about how to minimize the regulations. What can they do in this space to minimize the regulation, not just about fees, not just about cost, but also about time. So this is very, very important to consider. So I just wanted to provide a brief update on that. So now we can perhaps go into the main topic for this video, is basically the patent situation. So again, this is from 2018, it's a couple of years ago, from ARK Invest, and I want to basically start off by reading really high level, the intro here. So they're talking about how intellectual property is critical, and they talk about patents provide a company with 20 years of exclusivity. So, it's a lot of time there. And in the meantime, these companies receive licensing fees and royalty payments, right? So if you hold these types of patents, you can definitely earn some sort of recurring revenues for a long, long time. And most importantly, you attract talent seeking the cutting edge technology. So very, very important, right? So although there will be many winners in the space, and although there are many companies, we named already a couple of them, talent is limited, right? The talent pool is limited. And usually this is across industries, the best employees, the best individuals in their fields, they usually head to companies that are highly innovative and that actually hold specific patents in a specific technology. This is across industries, right? Makes sense. And I think this is what they're mentioning here in this line that I highlighted. And this example here, Genentech here, is a prime example of benefits of a strong IP position. And basically here they're mentioned that in the 1980s they went to public, but because they held a specific patent in the DNA technology, the company stock actually grew 11-fold in the rate of 6 years between its IPO. So very, very interesting, right? So this is just an example. This was a couple of decades ago, but it's an example how a company, just by holding a specific patent, can have its value increase significantly. So you want to keep that in mind. And now they're heading into the CRISPR IP landscape for what it concerns to us, and basically go a little bit of the history behind it. I won't bore you guys with that. Do read the article. Highly advise you guys to do that. But I did want to mention here that there were some disputes, and actually I'm pretty sure there's still some disputes over this. But it looks like after some of the significant legal battles, there's basically these three companies, NTLA, CRISPR Therapeutics, and Editas, they hold certain patents, right, from the universities such as UC System or Broad Institute, the institution. So very interesting that these three companies are mentioned when it comes to CRISPR human therapeutics, right? And you see here that we'll scroll down a little bit here just to be a little more visual. You see here the landscape overview of Cas9 licensing agreements. And what's really interesting here is that let's start with CRISPR Therapeutics here, or all the way down here. And you see that they hold human therapeutics for blood, eye, heart disease. You have the sickle cell disease, the T-cell therapies for cancer. And then they basically have these partnerships, which obviously Vertex has paid a huge amount. We looked at it previously. I think it was like 800 million total for 2 programs in CRISPR Therapeutics over the years. So that's very interesting. And then you have NTLA here that owns another set of Cas9 patents here, and they obviously have partnered with Regeneron and Novartis as well for CAR-T. And then you have Editas here. They own another set of patents here for human therapeutics, and they have partnered with other companies. So I think the goal here is not to understand specifically what do they own and what does it actually mean. And I don't think that's really the goal. The goal here is to understand what do these patents actually mean to these companies in this industry, right? So if I scroll down a little bit here, I think here this is the most important part of this paper, in my opinion, because it says, while critics believe there's an exclusive license for human therapeutics will limit CRISPR as a platform technology, others have offered 3 reasons why the impact will be marginal, right? So 1, the patent dispute only covers the Cas9 nuclease. So basically what they're saying is that this patent here that we just talked about, these patents, they only cover the Cas9 nuclease. And there's even talks in the industry that there's other ways to bypass this, right? So this is specifically for Cas9 nuclease. Number 2, a license to use CRISPR for academic research is not required, obviously, right? So if you're none for commercial reasons, which we've seen in the last video. A paper from Tokyo University was published about a fungal disease. So you definitely don't need a patent for that, right? You can just execute that, and obviously the industry will grow because you have more academic research on it, more papers being released on different specific parts of and cells, right? Whether that's fungal, whether that's vegetation, whether that's specific plants, animals, and so on. And then number 3 is exclusive license. Simply provide the right of first refusal, right? So if a company wants to commercialize a CRISPR therapeutic, it will have to first give the rights to the primary CRISPR patent holder, right? So very, very interesting. And I think here what's interesting is also the fact that basically ARK Invest here, they mentioned that, hey, these patents they hold, that's fine, but many people in this industry do not believe this is going to be an issue for future companies and for future academic research. I don't think it's as straightforward as that. I think here they also mentioned here Genentech. This is the example from the 1980s. They tracked the best talent, so it received the royalty rights in the absence of competition. And then here they're saying that will earn their stripes. These companies here, NTLA, Editas, CRISPR Therapeutics, CRISPR functionality. So I think there's many gains to be held from these companies just from having these patents. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a big blocker for many companies to come in this space, but I do think it is a sort of blocker because it is patented. So it's very interesting. Another point here is that when this paper was released, they said that combined, these 3 companies were worth $5 billion, which, if you've been following these companies, you know that even NTLA is worth more than $5 billion today, and CRISPR Therapeutics worth more than $10 billion. So we're way past that. And what also is interesting to know is they mention here may deliver 75 billion annual revenue and an addressable market of more than 1 trillion. So obviously these numbers have been updated. This was from 2018, but I did just want to mention to you guys, although it's been a couple of years, it wasn't that long ago, right? And these numbers have changed, and look at the progress we've done recently. So keep that in mind. And the last point I wanted to make here is that they name a couple of companies here, Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and so on, Vertex, and they were talking about how, there's many of these companies have indirect exposure to CRISPR technology. We talked about some of their partnerships and so on. So I just wanted to go really briefly over this paper. I highly advise you guys to go over this paper. You can Google the paper. I'll link in the description, but do go over this paper if you have time. I think it's really interesting. And then they end up talking about how the cost of decline in genome sequencing and decrease. This doesn't really have to do anything with the patents. So I'm a little bit confused as to why this is all in one paper. But I guess it was just a paper they wanted to release just to double down on the fact that this technology is going to disrupt many fields in the healthcare industry for years to come. So I just wanted to end this video with this, guys. So hopefully you guys appreciated this video. Do like and subscribe. Really does help the channel. I really like the feedback I'm getting from Twitter and from YouTube comments. So please do keep those comments coming in. Do subscribe. I think it does definitely help the community to hopefully we can raise awareness, right, about these companies to many investors, even people that have little to no knowledge about healthcare / gene editing / genomics. So thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see each other in the next video. Thank you very much.